This is when I like pull my leg and
Yeah, I was gonna
and
say.
I'm lipping everywhere.
we're
from
on a
yelling.
we're on a slant, so you could toppling back.
Just
into the
knock
ground.
everything over. It'd be the most viewed thing I've ever done.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah. Okay. I'm here with Sean Palmer, who runs sound for.
Underoath.
Is that it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, right now, currently.
Mm.
This past year, I've been with Lovely the Band, Poppy.
You with Poppy?
Yeah, I did that 30 Seconds of Mars tour over the summer.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was fun. She's great. Yeah, great band,
She's
great
kind of
people.
taken off.
Yeah, I hope so. She's a talented person, and she's a pretty nice person too. So.
Yeah, her and Knocked Loose pissed off like the whole TV
Oh, I know.
world
That was
going on
insane.
Kimmel.
They were demanding an apology for what?
Being
Just
themselves.
pick up your remote and press the power button or
Dude,
the
I
channel
saw
change
one.
button.
What was it like? My kid was crying watching it, or
Kid, what was your kid doing up at 12:30 at night?
I do. And it's also like,
Yeah, just change it.
no, kids, you will watch this.
Yeah, yeah.
Who was the kid writing?
I mean, if I had kids, I'd probably force them to listen to Knock Loose, but that's just me.
Arf, arf. How they're running around doing arf, arf everywhere.
This is great.
Okay, so we are at Tabernacle.
Yes, the beautiful Tabernacle.
It's a
here in
gorgeous venue.
Atlanta. Yeah.
How far along in the run are you?
Almost done. Almost done. This is show 48 or something, 49, out of 54 or something to that extent.
How's it been?
Great. It's been long, but we had a 2-week break in the middle. We started rehearsal September 10th, and we finish in Tampa on the 16th of December.
What's been your biggest obstacle for this tour?
The band owns all their gear, like all their equipment, so it's not like we're renting from a rental house like a Claire or a Sound Image or anybody like that. So the challenge is you don't have. I can't call a production company and be like, hey, I'm having an issue with this piece of equipment. Can you help me? And they walk you through it. I basically have to like figure it out myself.
Yeah.
So the start of the Dante, everything's been running really smoothly since we got it up and running. Getting Dante started was difficult, and then I had to buy a new computer because it wasn't powerful enough to run UAD console for our Dante Apollo. So that took up a good day, maybe 2 days of rehearsal of me running around trying to figure out, like Tim and I basically just staying up till like 3 a.m. trying to get it to work. And I was like, all right, this is just a computer problem. We have to go buy a new computer. And that was it. And it took a minute to set everything up still, but that was like the biggest like real challenge.
Do you prefer band own or renting equipment?
I like renting equipment because you have that security net, that safety net to like if something breaks, like if the lake we own, if that goes down, then I can just call and the next day or the day after we'll have a new one. Whereas like luckily the lab group and customer service has been pretty good because we've had a couple issues with connectivity. But like on the other hand, it's nice that you get to learn things because now I know a lot more about computer networking than I did before this tour started.
Yeah. I can see both sides of it, and I could really probably argue both sides of it. I think you're right, though. Like, if you own it, you can't. It's like renting a house versus owning a house. If there's something wrong with the house, you can call and get it fixed.
Yeah.
But also, if you're going and flying somewhere with it, there's something to be said about having your own console.
That's great, yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
I think it's smart to find a production house that you know and that you trust, and that you know will give you good equipment, have a great relationship with them is pretty key as well.
Yeah, back in was Silverstein like 2007 or 6 or something? We did a world tour and we rented a Yamaha M7 CL from Rat, and we just kept it with us the whole 18 months or whatever it was. It never returned. There's a couple things that went wrong with it, but they'd send out parts and I'd fix it on the spot. But it was like a production company that we trusted, and we had that relationship that they could be like, here's a console, you can have it for even like the few months between tours you're not touring, you can still have it. That way if we did like a one-off or whatever, we still had the show and we didn't have to like spec and rent a console for the day, because that's always more expensive renting a console for one day versus like a week or a month or a tour or whatever. So
what's your advice to band members or bands or techs that want to start renting equipment and have never done that in life? What are What are some things to maybe look for, mistakes you've made, or what would be your advice to?
If it's a local thing, like, a lot of the times, like some of the larger companies, especially if you're just starting out in a band, like you're not taking too much stuff. Like some of the larger companies, they just simply don't have the resources to allocate to like a smaller tour, which is fine and fair. So when you're like working with smaller local companies, word of mouth is great. Like just talk to people about Google search. Like you're not really gonna get much for Google search, but talk to people that work there. Like see what their attitudes are and how they like, how well maintained the gear is. Um, if it's packaged for touring, because there's been a couple times I've rented equipment and it just shows up and it's in like pieces and you have to build everything every day, and it's like
Oh,
they don't have patch panels, or they don't like, here's the gear, and you need a few XLRs to connect this compressor to the console, so here are a couple XLRs. It's like there's no multi-pin latch and quickness and all that kind of stuff. So
so which do you prefer,
what's that?
renting or band owned
uh,
or renting?
I would probably say renting, just because of that safety net, and like I have the electronic touch of death, so a lot of stuff I touch breaks. So having that insurance is kind of nice. But it's also really nice working with the same gear every time. You know the gear, you know what's going on. Like when I have problems now, I'm like, okay, it's this,
Yeah.
and I can fix it right away. So it's nice. Yeah.
So let's hit the rewind button. All the way to the beginning, when you're just a sparkle in your dad's eye.
Yeah.
Fast forward from there
We'll leave out those details.
to you were born where?
I was born in London, Ontario, Canada.
So are you still Canadian?
I am still Canadian.
Still
Yes.
Canadian.
Yes.
Do you live in America now?
I do. I live in Colorado now.
Okay.
Yeah.
How hard was that transition to be able to like getting your visa and stuff? Was that?
It was okay. To avoid a headache, I just paid a lawyer. This great lawyer named Camilla Palmer, and she's in Denver. She's helped a few of other friends of mine with green card stuff, and it wasn't that much. It was. I went and did the interview with like the agent there, and the next day she went on maternity leave. So my file was just like sitting there for like my lawyer was calling and trying to get it figured out. So that was like the only real hiccup that it took forever. But it was pretty smooth. Like when you have the fortunate enough to have the money to pay for it, it was pretty smooth.
See, that's a tough one. And maybe you could speak a little bit to that. Like I know I have a lot of engineers that are from other countries, specifically Canada, that they want to the work's like in America, so they want to come to America to work, but they don't have the. I don't want to ask you how much it was. I'm assuming it was pretty expensive to do it.
It wasn't like tens of thousands of dollars or anything like that, but it was a few grand to get started.
More than 5?
With a lawyer, it was just under 5.
Okay, so that's not horrible. So you still got to save up, because I've heard of like them going up to about 10 grand to do one, but that's not a lot for. Now, did you know you wanted to come to America and you did it that way, or did you start with a band and go like? Did the work come first, or did the desire come first?
Work came first. So I always worked for. I started playing in bands, and we always had P1 visas to come over and play. And then when I started working for bands, it was P1s and O2 or P2s and O2 visas, depending on. I think the only thing that's different is one's longer in years than the other one, but we'd always like. The work was there. The bands I was working with, started my first real heavily touring act was Silverstein. So we came to the U.S. a lot, like to the fact that everyone thought they were an American band, forgetting that Silverstein's from Burlington, Ontario. So like, so yeah, that always happened. And then I met a lady, and she lived in Colorado, so we moved there. So yeah.
Okay, so what got you into the music scene altogether? Were you one of those failed musicians as well?
100%.
Or
Yeah.
what instrument?
Yeah, bass guitar player.
Yeah?
Yeah. I always wanted to be a recording engineer. When I was in high school and stuff, played in I had a mohawk, played in punk bands, and I always wanted to be a recording engineer, and that translated into just me like recording like my band's stuff occasionally, and we didn't really have a lot of schools back then, so it was like Fanshawe, and then I think there was which is Fanshawe College in London, and then I think Trebas Institute had a program for like production, but it wasn't live; it was recording.
Did you go into the live for necessity or for?
Yeah, I thought I I always loved the studio, loved being in the studio, the environment, stuff like that. And then started playing shows. And then my first like audio gig was for my friend's band, Gym Class Joke, and it was just I drove the little minibus around, and we they were like, oh, you wanted to do sound, you should do sound. So
Yeah.
I did it. The first show we were in Sudbury, Ontario, I think, like way up north, and playing some like hotel ballroom, like some local shows, so some hotel ballroom, and the guy that had set the PA up was like a really nice dude, like a young guy, he's probably like mid-20s at the time, and I was like 18, maybe 17, and he just like kind of showed me the ropes and how like game structure for live was and stuff, and I instantly fell in love. Yeah.
First tour you went on?
First tour was like that I was playing in, or that I did
Oh, I
sound
guess
for.
either.
Yeah.
Did you go on tour playing?
Oh yeah. We went to Europe and did my
Really?
first band, Always Outnumbered, went to Europe once or twice. Or we had a label over there, and then I was in a band called The Reason. We were on Small Man Records in Canada. Did some touring down here in the States as well. So I guess the first real tour was probably like in high school. We'd go out like we'd spend our summers on the road playing shows, like trading shows with bands. Like that website, Book Your Own F word life. I don't know if I can swear on here, but
It's fine.
it's bookyourownfuckinglife.com or whatever it was, and you'd go and there'd be promoters, and it'd be like it's like a yellow page, like a resource. You'd look up the city and the state or whatever, and email a bunch of contacts, and then they'd write you back and be like, yeah, cool. I've got this. I play in this band. Can we trade shows? So you do that. So that was like how we spent our summers, like going out the weekend and playing like Barrie, Ontario, and Ottawa, and then coming back and doing a couple hometown shows or home area shows with the bands from that area or whatever that put on the show. So
What a unique perspective to be able to be, because you can speak to being there based upon experience and actually feeling that and going through that. Like, what size rooms were y'all playing?
it was like VFW halls, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Growing up, and then the reason we did pretty okay. Like we did like 1,000 cap rooms in like the major cities in Canada, and then like maybe like I don't know if we sold them out, but it's mostly like any 250 to 500 cap rooms was probably like our bread and butter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't like anything super huge, but it was a lot of fun. Like
So
that shaped me a lot. So
the transition to sound, because like the band broke up and you necessity you need to go somewhere else. You're just kind of dabbling and you wanted to go into it. Like,
yeah, I mean, I was like when I got that bug about doing live sound, I would just whenever like we went on tour with I think I was telling the story earlier. We went on tour with Pennywise in Canada, and Randy, their front of house guy at the time, like he was just really cool. I went out front of house during sound check and asked him questions, and he just like walked me through and taught me about certain stuff. And then I was in the van reading the Yamaha live sound manual and stuff like that, like in the back of the van, trying to get tips and learning how to use stuff. And I just started doing that. Like I would either mix bands that we were on tour with, or I would just talk to whoever was mixing the headliner that we were opening up for. And then one of the bands we played a lot with was Silverstein, and I would mix them when we played together. And then eventually they were just like, we want to start touring with a sound guy. Would you like to be said sound guy? So I did that and left the band, left the playing days behind.
so you haven't done the production house thing?
I did, yeah. I never did. It's weird. I started out wanting to be studio, but I never really did a lot of studio stuff, like good studio stuff, like where it was you actually have like a console and like nice outboard gear and nice mics and a nice room and stuff. So I kind of came at mixing from like a musician's point of view, and then drummer in my band Cam was working for this company in Toronto called Midnight Hour Productions. They were mostly like a video lighting house, but they had like some small audio stuff. They had like some old community speakers and some Allen and Heath GL series consoles. And he was like, well, I'm leaving. I got another job, so I want to find someone to fill in. So if you want to do that, then I'll call my boss and tell him to hire you. And that was literally it. And then I started working at Midnight Hour and started building PA systems and doing the system thing. And eventually I left there and went to a company called Band World in Toronto, and that's kind of when I started. I was working at a venue in Hamilton, and my buddy Brad Ferguson was coming through with, I can't remember the artist. He was Basha Boulay or something was playing. I can't remember. Anyways, he was I was the house guy, and he was like, "Hey, man, you seem to really know what you're doing. You're really helpful. Do you want a gig in Toronto?" And I was like, "Sure." So he was the audio department manager, and he hired me to build outboard racks and like maintain consoles and stuff. So that's what I was doing for a pretty long time when my band was on tour. So we'd go on tour for like 6 weeks or whatever, come home for a couple months, then I'd be there. Like,
It's interesting doing these videos because there's so many different perspectives on like the way to go about it and the way to do it. And some people swear by production house. Some people swear by going out and doing it, or go to a local venue and doing it there. And I don't think there's one correct way to do it. There's different ways of doing it, especially now
yeah,
there's so many different like ways to learn.
yeah.
Um, Going through the production house side, what's your biggest takeaway that you feel like you got from that?
Hmm.
So stepping from going from live, was there anything more that you learned that you use today that you learned from
Oh yeah,
there?
yeah, for sure.
And what was that?
Yeah, but Andy Turner, front of house guy for Blink-182, and when I met him, he was mixing the Used. This was Taste of Chaos 2007, I think. And I was debating on whether or not I wanted to go to VDOS like line array school and learn how to like fly PA like officially and have get like a little certificate and stuff. So he had an analogy that rings true to your point is that
Hey,
imagine
can you help me get the Farley vents up? They got left off.
he said imagine two race car drivers in two cars driving from LA to New York in a race. They're both great drivers, but one's also a good mechanic, knows his way around his vehicle. The other guy does not. Who do you think is going to win that race? Probably the guy that knows more about the vehicle that he's operating than the guy who doesn't. So even if like you don't, by stating that, I'm not saying you should be an expert in line array theory and all that kind of stuff, but like know what crossover points are in a PA and know like you tend to learn like more better questions to ask the house guy and stuff like that. And that's another resource. Learning to use resources like that is.
COVID did such a weird thing that was so unique. It did such a shift in the industry because it was like you had to pay your dues and you had to go through some way to get on tour. And granted, there was a little bit more gatekeeping with it, but all the older people hanging up their hats, I haven't seen. It's been amazing how many people I've seen that are in this seat without understanding this.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
And to have people who, nothing against people who don't know how to SE, but it's like it shows even more importance of like understanding that and learning that as well. And I've seen I think there is some importance to coming through, maybe even just old, but I think there is some importance to going through the other side and have an appreciation for that. I'm not saying you have to be an SE, but to have the understanding of it. And I think there's such a unique spot at the size venue you're at because you have to do multiple things at once. And that could be really intimidating to be like, there's a time like I don't feel like I'm a good SE. But to go to every single one and now I have to put that hat on to be able to do this because you set this mix, you understand this, you trust this. The unknown variable
is always the room.
Is these. But what's the practical application to be able to make these translate to here can be kind of tough and daunting if you don't understand that. Do you find it kind of tough in these size rooms to be able to do that and adapt to PA du jour? Or what are some of the things you have to be able to be successful in that and doing multiple hats?
I mean, learning how to use Smart, even in its most basic function, like learning how to use transfer function, for me was huge. We talked a little bit on the live thing about that Avril Lavigne tour with Jimmy Akabuski and Matt Blakely, them showing me how to like quick and dirty a room like an EQ and make sure everything's aligned properly. Like that's key. For consistency, having like an EQ trace either from like some studio monitors that you mix on that you trust, or just saving it from a really good show, and kind of building your like trying to match that EQ curve a little bit will increase consistency in your mixes, and you're not having to like, oh, the kick drum sounds completely different in this room, so now I got to change the kick drum completely, and then it's like you're kind of it lends to chasing your tail more than you want to.
Yeah.
Like things like vocals are always going to be weird in like different rooms, and like maybe some drums will sound different on certain stages. Like here we've got an open stage, but if you had like the stage pushed back behind the proscenium, the drums would sound different. And you're probably EQing a little bit, but you're not like starting from scratch every day. You've got like a really good starting point, and like having that really helps helps you be consistent in like room to room, because like we'll go from a place like this to like like a roadhouse style venue where where the ceilings are super low and you've got 4 speakers aside, or like you go from a line array to like a bunch of trap boxes floating in the air, or stacked on the ground or whatever. So it's like trying to keep that consistency is key, especially for the band, like because I'm mixing ears from here as well. So if you're not screwing around too much in that regard, then it's better for them as well.
He talked about the live. If you're curious about that, please go to our Patreon, or if you want to support this channel, please go there and do so. We're going to do a bunch of live behind the scenes. So if you want to get more information on this, go to Patreon and subscribe. There's a link below with it. Now, what is the first thing you look at walking into a room for the first time? In terms of SE hat.
SE hat.
What's the first boxes that you're checking off, or the things that you're looking at? Like, okay.
Probably like room height, depth, that like the general shape of the room. If there's any like enemies, like glass walls or like metal, like facades or anything like that, anything that might be a big pain in the ass at some point in time. And then array deployment, like if it's a line array, like what's it shaped like? Like if we're here and we've got like a balcony, a lot of sometimes venues will have like the PA low. Like here we've got like lip fills, which is great. Sometimes you don't have that, so the PA is a little lower and it's raked back a little bit. So that's obviously going to affect the efficiency of the PA system in a different way. Maybe not necessarily a bad way, but just a different way. So like sub deployment, seeing where things are. Just basically that. Talk to the house guy.
Okay. Walk me through your process a little bit about tuning. You go in and you look at all that stuff. Mm-hmm. What's the practical application then? What do you do? I know we walked through it a little bit earlier on live, but if you don't mind explaining it a little bit.
Yeah. So I'll take a look at the PA deployment, see how many boxes are in the air, and if they've got subs behind them. And first thing I do is I talk to the front or the system guy from the house and ask him if there's any wonky frequencies. What's going to happen? Like I don't want to be tuning a room and then you take out too much high end, and then the room comes in, it gets really humid, and the floor goes away, and maybe a metal wall gets blocked or something, and then you have no high end. So,
do you find most system guys are willing to help, or do you find that because I've heard both. Do you find the house guy? I'm sorry, house guys are more helpful, or a little bit like I created this, so you're kind of stepping on my toes and you're offending me?
More helpful. It's less now. It's more helpful now. Like I find a lot more guys are just like willing to like chat about it. But there's still certain guys who are like, I don't know, it's a PA system in a room. What do you want? Like, okay, just listen, use your ears, listen to it. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to.
Do you find? So I'm using. Do you find that you have to tune most rooms, or are they getting to a level now that they all sound pretty?
They all sound pretty good. I'm a big sub phase alignment guy. Like I focus a lot on that because it really, if your subs are slow, like too slow, it just makes your mix. To me, makes my mix sound muddy and cluttered and like saggy. Like it just feels like the especially like a quicker kind of like upbeat rock band. It's like if your subs are too slow, it just feels like they're trying to catch up, and everything just seems sluggish.
Yeah. Sorry, back to your tuning thing.
Yeah. Use your ears. Everyone's like, use your ears. Not just you don't just use your ears to listen to the stuff coming out, but you got to listen to what the house guy says and what the band wants and that kind of thing. So you want use your ears, but not just to listen to the PA. Like listen to people that have worked with it, that have worked on it, they've been in the room, that know the little quirks and weird stuff. Because at this level, every room has some weird thing going on. Like if you look at the Smart, there's a big line of 120, and I turned to the house guy earlier. I was like, it's 120, like a standing wave in here. He's like, oh no, it's the coolers. The coolers are like, oh okay, cool. Now I know when I see a big spike at 120, I'm not just trying to hack that out, trying to find out where it is, because it's not there. It's not coming out of the PA system. It's coming out of So he was like, yeah, it's the coolers. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So listen to the house guy. Like use your resources.
Target curve. Can you explain what that is and how do you set one?
So Smart, the I use transfer function in Smart, and when we do like rehearsal, we'll do like 3, 4, 5, whatever days of rehearsal, and I'll have um, studio monitors, like just reference monitors or whatever, set up, do the mix, and once I'm done and I'm happy with how everything sounds, I just take one of them, turn them on, turn Pink through it, and get like an EQ trace, and I save that. So I'm like, so what I've heard out of that speaker, the mix I had coming out of the speaker was following this EQ curve. So in theory, if you can shape, like not overly dramatically EQing things, but if you can kind of shape the room to match that EQ curve a little bit, you're not going to have to do a lot of EQing. I'm shaping the room to my mix, not shaping my mix to the room.
That's a big one that I think separates when you go from beginner to intermediate, is going from kick, snare, hat, EQing the whole entire thing to, okay, so, and I understand that you have to spend time at the beginning and have the ability to do rehearsals and be able to get that process. But I mean, I think it's very important to spend the time, do that, get the mix to where you want it, set that, and then translate that there, because you're now going to be saving a ton of time.
Yeah.
Virtual sound check. Do you do much of that, or
a little bit at the beginning? I did. Yeah, I found myself in this particular case changing things, and then the band comes on and plays the show, and then it goes right back to like where I had it before. So like, if virtual sound check's great, I do use it a lot, but now I like trust. Now that we're like 230 million years into this tour, I know what the kick drum, how that kick drum's going to translate when I just hear a line check before, because this band doesn't sound check often at all, really. So when I hear a kick drum, I know how that's going to translate to the show, just solely based on experience and the steps we've taken.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Another thing that is common in this size is monitors from front of house.
Mhm.
You're doing monitors from front of house, correct?
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about that. Do you find it? How do you set yourself up for success with that in wearing both hats with it? Do you find it more complicated or easy? Would you wish you had one monitor guy? Is this with this band? Is it pretty set and forget, pretty easy with it?
Luckily they're very. Earlier this year I was with Lovely the band, and they have the same, like literally CTI 1500 monitors in front of house, but like they don't ask for much stuff. Like it's pretty set and forget, but I would suggest having like splitting your head amps and having a monitor, like a separate monitor channels. So with here we have like 40 something channels, not including effects, and then it's like I have it on a VCA here, so you just press that, and then it's all the monitor. You create all the monitor channels. You set your kick in input, and then your kick in input on your front of house channel and your monitor channel, and then you take all your monitor channels, you put them in DCA, and then you just press that, and then each of these guys has their mix just set like that. So you can just, and then you go back to your front of house mix. That allows you to be able to EQ things differently for what guys want to hear, because a guitar player doesn't want to. I'm a big fan of like high pass and low passes, so like a guitar player doesn't really want his guitar in his ears as low passed as I would like it at front of house to create space for the vocal, because he doesn't have that necessity. He doesn't need to hear every lyric that Spencer sings. Like Tim doesn't have to hear that. He knows he's playing in the band for 20 plus years, so he knows what he's saying. He's just he doesn't need the fidelity in the vocal there. He requires it more as guitar. So having that, being able to like give him what he needs without compromising on your end at front of house is key. So that's huge, and I did that with did that years. Been doing that for years basically.
Yeah.
And it's much more efficient than just trying to run. Your band really has to like what you're doing at front of house.
Yeah.
And find it applicable to what they need for that to happen. So
I don't think it's any secret that your drummer, as fantastic as he is, he's a very hard player.
Yeah.
Amazing drummer. And I've noticed that there is a lot of bands who have drummers who are harder playing with that.
Yeah.
What is some of your advice to someone who's a dynamic player and it not overtaking everything? How do you balance that without trying to squash his, like, you could go to him and be like, hey, you need to play quieter.
Yeah.
But in reality, let him do what he does because he's amazing at what he does.
Yeah, you're probably not going to last very long if you're going around telling people how to change how they play. with
Yeah,
you
and
for
that's
sure.
nothing to his
Yeah.
playing by any
Uh-huh.
means. He's just such a amazing drummer,
Yeah.
dynamic drummer. What's your advice to engineers that also have a
96 dB snare drum from front of house?
yes?
Like the PA.
Talk to me about some of the obstacles you deal with that and how you overcome some of those obstacles. Even to like you had a freaking laser
Oh yeah. Yeah.
laser beam.
Yeah.
What's the word I'm looking for?
So it's just a laser measure.
Laser measurer for
yeah.
that. Walk me through some of that, will you?
So I got this. I started doing this when I was mixing a band called Big Wreck, and they have just. It's basically jet engines on stage for guitar cabinets. Like they're the loudest things on earth. So like playing, having like you guys playing like he's playing two 412s or three 412s at like a set to murder, and like you've got a PA coming out here and then like the other PA system is like 10 feet back or 25 feet back. So you're getting this. To me, you're getting. Like, I feel like you're getting like a weird thing. Like it's not cohesive. So I just basically just delay the PA back to the loudest thing on stage. In this case, we don't have cabinets, so it's the snare drum. So I just stand like right in line with the PA and just try to like hold the laser measure to the snare drum, and then I find out how many feet that is. Today it was like 15 feet or something, and then I divide that by the speed of sound, and then also subtract any system delay. Like we're running Dante UAD plugins, and I have the 6 millisecond. The network's at 6 milliseconds latency. It's fast and stable. There's 4 milliseconds, but it was like too much for my computer at one point. So, but that's like translates to like 6.52 milliseconds, I think, on average. So, you take that number that you got divided by like 15 divided by 1126, multiply it by 1,000, and it'll give you like a 2-digit number, like I don't know what it is, 15 whatever milliseconds it is, and then subtract the latency for Dante and any system latency. So they're running array processing on the DMB here, so it's I think it's like 0.3 milliseconds of like internal latency. So we just subtract that, and then that's the delay. I think it was like 6.5 milliseconds left of that number that I put back on the system, and that just kind of lines the PA up with the snare drum, and to me it just feels more natural. Like it erases the PA to me. Like it feels like the band becomes the PA for any lack of a better way to explain that.
I remember what artist it was. It was saying, I know it's a good PA when I don't notice it. If I notice the PA, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And that was coming from the artist principal's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Because we showed him a sound system. It's like, that's mine. If I don't notice it, it's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about plugins. I don't see it. 5045.
Yeah. So that's
UAD.
Mhm.
Can we talk about
Sure,
plugins,
yeah.
what you
Let's
use,
rock and roll,
and all that? And I'm going to go ahead and turn this thing on.
Yeah.
We're back.
Oh, hey.
We were gone, but we're back. They are doing VIP meet and greet. No. Yeah.
Now they're meeting and greeting now.
Meeting and greeting. So ignore these people back here. We're still going to do our thing. Sorry about that. Not sorry. But what were we talking about?
We were talking
Plugins.
about plugins.
Walk me
Processing.
through plugins
All right.
and processing, and I'm going to shoot it on this camera.
Great. Well, starting with let's to explain my setup on the console first. So I have kick and snare stems so both my kick out and kick in go to a mono group. Snare top and snare bottom go to a mono group. Those groups are then fed to the stereo drum bus and the stereo parallel compression bus for the drums. And then I've got a mono channel for bass, mono channel for the lead vocals for Aaron and Spee, guitars, keys, tracks, backup vocals, and the thing I've been doing for the better part of 6 months now is rear bus compression. So that's an Ender Shep's thing. I'll talk about it more a little bit in the on the UAD. So all the processing for here, I'm using the new X16D from Apollo from Universal Audio. It's Dante. So all my I/O is Dante for this, and for the audio running on my computer. So the kick snare or the kick stem, kick snare stem are the same. I've got an SSL EQ or an SSL channel on the first in line, and then into a distressor. I just added the distressor to the kick a little while ago, and I've been pretty happy with it. Um, and then same thing. Probably my favorite plugins. Yeah, so that's just like trying to call the beast of the snare drum a little bit.
Hmm.
My bass bus is an API 2500, and I'm doing about a dB or two of compression on like the main buses or the main channel groups. So that's just giving me a nice little like, because Grant plays a lot of distortion, so it's just kind of tightening that up a little bit before I then add another EQ, the SSL EQ afterwards. For the buses that go to the mains, like all, and then all the buses go to the main left and right. I don't use any. I don't send any channels to left and right. Everything goes through a bus. Everything has its appropriate bus. Um, so anything that I'm doing that's on the group that are going directly to the mains, I'm generally always putting an EQ after the compressor. So I'm comping it and then putting it back. So the lead vocals are a little bit of shelving in the EQ. I added some mid range, a little bit of the EQ, and it's like tickling a little bit. You can hear it when Spee and Aaron do they sing together, do like harmonies. It kind of like when I push Aaron's vocal up over Spee's, it kind of gives it a light compression. So Spee's kind of coming down in volume naturally, as opposed to like inconsistently pulling a fader down to match the vocals. So I just same with guitars. If Tim's playing lead, I push the lead up, and it compresses everything else. So it naturally kind of consistent nature of reduction. Uh, so back over there, and then I've got I've got the EQ after the bass, or yeah. I found this setting called like Dirty Punk EQ or Dirty Punk Bass or something like that, and I've just been expanding on that often. API for the drums, another SSL, G bus for the compression or for the parallel group that just includes the kick, snare, and toms. Uh, and then guitar, I've been bouncing back between this, the LA2A, or the 3A, sorry, and there's an Alesis Alpha Alpha Master comp that's pretty good. Um, I was doing mid-side stuff with the guitars, but I ran out of outputs that I needed outputs for like some streaming we were doing. So I ended up having to go back to just regular stereo. So I switched back to the LA3A from the Alesis one that actually does mid-side compression. Then I've just got a Brainworks saturator, just adding a little color to the guitars, a little warmth. Um, and then that's my master. So a little G-Bus master on there. It's doing about 3 to 4 dB of compression. Um, and I really like this reverb, the EMT from whatever company it's from. It's really natural sounding plate, which is super nice. It's hard to. I'm a reverb nerd. I just really particular about it. So to me, it's got to sound a certain way. Otherwise, it just becomes like the reverb becomes too much of the character of the instrument. Or I'm just trying to add space to it. So, and then finally is rear bus compression. So this is basically I send all the channels that aren't drums to this group, including drums or including vocals, effects. Everything's going to this. It's doing about a dB to 2 dB of compression without vocals. Then when singing comes in, it's doing about 4 to 5 dB of compression. At that point, it just gets fed into the left and right, and it's just a parallel compression group for like everything other than your drums. And Andrew Sheps came up with it because he was doing his Neve console was built for quadraphonic sound, so it has a rear bus. So he would send that stuff to the rear bus, compress it differently. He uses, I think, the hardware version of this compressor, and I've experimented with the Neve 33609 as well on it, and it's just a different character. I find just for like raw, like more metally stuff. This is a little more aggressive. You can kind of it it makes the effect a little more impactful than the Neve one, which is nice and smooth. But yeah, it's been helpful. It really adds a lot of like punch without adding too much pressure, like sound pressure level. Like it's not too much gain. It's not jumping out or anything like that because it's still relatively compressed. So Yeah, I've been happy with that move. So, yeah. And then I'm doing. I have Super Rack Performer, just running a few like literally just my half, my quarter inch or quarter inch, my quarter note and my half note delays and doubler. So I've got the Waves doubler, and then just 2 instances of H delay, and that's doing like kind of my all the time on delay, and it's there's a compressor on it that side chains from the lead vocal group, so when they're singing, it's compressing it and not just having delay happen like the second they start singing. So it kind of like creates a little bit more space for the vocal. So so it's been great. I love the H delay. Um, it's got a bunch of cool features like filters and stuff on it. I love the like I love how you can just set the notes and it does like dotted notes, quarter note or yeah, all the things it does. Dotted tail. Yeah, so you've got a bunch of different options that you can do. You can get really creative with it. So
What is the worst gig you've ever had?
I had to do patch at a festival once, and that was pretty bad. Just because, like, I just walked in. It was only bad because I didn't prepare myself for the gig. It had nothing to do with anybody else but me. But it was my first gig with this production company in Colorado, and we were at Telluride, the Blues and Brews Festival in Telluride, and a bunch of like BB King, a bunch of like large acts were playing, and had not done patch in a very long time because this was like 15 years into my career, so I was like usually in it like an SE or something up front, so doing whatever, but I just did it the way I would in my head lay out a patch, and it was very, very incorrect, and a lot of bands did not start on time because I did not prepare myself. And just so what I should have done was talk to the monitor engineer and the front of house engineer and said, "What do you want layout?" So he was like, the monitor engineer was like, "Just take a piece of tape, like board tape, for as long as it was still analog console, and then just write the patch out." And just put it on the console for me, and then I know, and then we'll do it that way. I can't remember what the solution was, but every day, the first day was a nightmare, and every day after that was totally fine. But that was, I was like, man, they're gonna send me home. I'm never gonna work for this company again. So that was a pretty bad gig. Um, Other ones were just like a lot of like personal stuff that I didn't do my research into, seeing what type of people the people I was working for are, and realizing it wasn't a very good fit personally. Um, Not saying that that's the case every time, but like in extreme situations, obviously I will not say the name of the band, but in certain situations, there's like you're completely opposite people, and they might push your buttons in a certain way, intentionally or not, that drive you bananas and take you out of who you are and what you're there for. So,
Coolest trick you've learned recently?
probably the rear bus thing, I think. Yeah, I've been using that in the last like 3 or 4 tours I've done, and I've been pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised it worked out live. It didn't seem like I feel like adding more compression and more volume to something wouldn't be as helpful as it has been. And
Yeah.
that's for what it does. It's been good. So that's probably the coolest one.
Best perk of being on tour?
Traveling. I love traveling. I love seeing things. I love seeing people, meeting new people, seeing cities. Like I love going to Europe. I always take a camera with me, and I'm a horrible photographer, and my pictures are hot garbage, but they're my pictures. So
All right, I'm gonna name some instruments,
okay,
and you're gonna tell me
ooh,
quickly what effects did you use on it.
okay.
Um, kick.
Little room reverb with a weird EQ, and it's like a high shelf. It's a small room with a high shelf. Kind of makes it sound like a D. Like I started using it for snare. It's kind of like that D4, like that old electronic snare sound. You press a little bit, but I use it for kick, and it adds a little bit of top end without having to add EQ, and a cool like little bite, and then a little bit of whatever drum reverb I'm using.
Guitar with amp.
Guitar with amp, usually dry, but sometimes I'll run a doubler to
Okay.
thicken it up, depending on the tone.
Okay. Acoustic guitar.
Acoustic guitar. Much similar to vocals. I affect acoustic guitar like I would a vocal, basically.
Uh,
So,
Female soft lead singer.
Soft lead singer. A little bit shorter pre-delay on a reverb, but not too big. Still a Hall. Like I like the Hall characteristic or like a big plate, but just a smaller one with a little less pre-delay than I would normally use. I think it's a little bit. I mixed Claro, and that was I actually used quite a bit of pre-delay on hers, but she's has that very breathy voice, so it's nice to like catch a lot of that with the reverb, like kind of emphasize a little bit with the reverb as opposed to like it taking over.
Yeah.
So you kind of watch your pre-delay, but yeah, that's
Male dynamic singer, very loud, very soft, and also screaming.
Also screaming. So I'll use a reverb, obviously. Big pre-delay, so it's not like it's not getting lost. Doubler and probably either slap or like a quarter note delay. That's side changed with a compressor, like we're doing here.
All right, hypothetical situation.
Uh,
It is 30 seconds to downbeat.
uh,
File crashes, you can't get it up, you got to build it from scratch. Where do you
Quit and go
go?
home.
Huh?
Quit and go home.
Goodbye.
Rage flip and get out of here.
You got to build it from scratch. Where do you go?
Vocal first. I don't really like say it's Underoath, for example. I don't EQ their guitars a lot. Like dynamic EQ, yes, but not a lot of EQ. So I find EQ takes a little more time to do. So I would go vocals, kick, drum, snare, move to the guitars, bass guitar included, and then do toms.
Finish this sentence. An audio engineer is always
Late. Well, that's just me. Yeah.
Best sonic sounding band you've ever heard.
Like mixed or
Yep.
just heard. I've been lucky, but Big Rec has big tones. Like Ian Thorley's a monster on guitar, and like his whole band is Dave McMillan's one of the best bass players I've ever worked with. Yeah, all those guys are all shredders at their instruments. Zach was an incredible drummer. But yeah, like sonically, they were probably up there. These guys actually have incredible tones. Tim's a tone monster, so it's like sonically very good. Yeah.
Last concert you went to that you weren't working.
Oh, geez. It's recent too. Good question. Oh boy. Menzingers. Menzingers in Denver was the last one I went to.
What is the best piece of advice you can give to audio engineers that immediately change their lives for the better?
Listen. Use your resources and listen. Don't just listen to the music. Listen to music, but listen to the band members of what they want their audience to feel, and then from there, listen to the room. Listen to the house guy. Listen to the audience members. Listen to anybody who knows the band. Like just take heed. Gary Hopkins, who wrote some Sherlock. He wrote some Doctor Who, I believe. He said, never allow ego to get in the way of listening. I find people that listen more to not just what they have to listen to, like really take stock in everything, have far less egos. And if you have less ego, you'll learn more. Because nobody knows everything. I don't know everything. I've been doing this for 25 years. I learn stuff new. I learn a new thing every day. So like, if I had an ego, like, oh, I've been doing this for 25 years. I know everything. It's like,
Yeah.
You're never going to learn. You're never going to progress. You're going to get to a point, but what we're all here to do, we're all here to like just continue getting better. Like, I want to keep getting better at this. Like I have such a passion for it that I strive and drive to get better every day. And you can't really do that with a big fat ego. So.
What's the most common mistake you see that local venues do?
Usually, that's a good question. Like with PA deployment, usually the subs aren't in the right phasing. They're not set up correctly.
Yeah.
But that's probably it. I mean, a lot of places are getting a lot better at logistics and such.
I gotta land the plane because I gotta pack stuff out here. Josh is waiting for me to get out of here. So if people want to follow you and follow your career,
Yeah.
where can they follow you at?
Instagram mostly. I just mostly post videos of this stuff and my dogs. It's Sean's at FOH, so SEANSATFOH on Instagram, and that's pretty much the only social stuff I do. But come to a show and come say hi and hang out.
Our Conan Underoath show near you.
Yeah.
Let's go, baby. That was weird. Do it again.
It's like sticky. I think
That
there's
was
a compressor-
horrible.
I think there's a compressor plug-in on this hi-hat.
Ah, there we go.
High five.
God, that was weird.
All right. Well, we'll try that and see how that sounds. So a few milliseconds of delay on the tops. I tend to lean more towards. Everything's different situationally, but I tend to lean more towards delaying the tops phase-wise to the subs versus pulling the subs back any further than they need to be. I was told once in L-Acoustics VDOS class that you got to think of the frequencies as like a train. So you want the goal is to have all the cars on the train arrive at the same time. So if you're slowing down